Last episode, we talked about leading peers without burning out. And I got some messages after that one. People saying things like, that was me. That's exactly what I've been feeling. Or, I needed to hear that I'm allowed to step back. But Chris, how do I actually get people to show up? And that last one, that's the question, isn't it? Because here's the frustrating reality of leading an APO. You can't pay people, you can't grade people, you can't make them care. And yet, somehow, chapters are full of energy and momentum. People show up early, they bring friends, they ask what's next. And other chapters, leadership's working twice as hard, and they feel like they're dragging people uphill, alone. So what's the difference? Today, we're going there. Welcome to Leading for Good, the Alpha Phi Omega Story, and our national podcast. I'm Chris Meschuk. And if you're new here, this is the show where we talk about what leadership, friendship, and service actually look like on campuses across the country. Not the polished version, the real version. And if you haven't listened to episode 2 yet, I'd actually go back and start there, because we talked about the burnout that comes with leading your peers and why that's not a sign that you're failing, it's a sign you care. And today picks up right where we left off. Because once you understand burnout isn't your fault, the next real question is, how do I create a chapter where motivation doesn't have to come from me every single time? And that's what we're unpacking today. And I think by the end of this episode, you're going to have some real practical shifts that you can make starting this week. So let's start with what most of us have already tried, right? Guilt or pressure. That reminder that gets sent 4 times, the public call out at the chapter meeting, or that lick you give when someone misses a project. And here's the thing, I've been there. And I think most leaders in APO have been there. Because when you care deeply and others don't seem to match that energy, guilt and pressure feel like the only levers that you have. But here's what Angelina said in our last episode that I keep coming back to.
Sometimes when you push that love onto other people, it makes them panic and it makes them reject.
That's it. That's the thing. Guilt might move people in the short term, but it kills long-term engagement. Because people don't disengage because they're lazy. They disengage because they don't feel needed. They don't feel connected. Or they're not clear on why something matters. And in APO, leadership has never been about compliance. It's about commitment. And commitment comes from meaning, not reminders. Joining me today is Maya Glover and Josephine White, both from the Alpha Eta Nu Chapter at Furman University. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So let's start with quick intros for folks, for you two. Tell us about how you found APO, maybe what roles you've held in the chapter. Maya, why don't we start with you?
All right. I am currently a junior at Furman. I joined APO my second semester of my freshman year. I took a class with somebody who was actively a brother. Shout out to Liz Moody. She dragged me to an event, a few Rush events, and I just got to know some brothers, and everyone seemed really cool, so I joined, and I really liked the emphasis on service because I really wanted to get some service hours in. It just offered a lot of great opportunities. I met my big, who was the pledge master at the time. We really connected, and after that, I just started engaging more. The next semester, I was sunshine chair. The semester after that, I was pledge master, and this current semester, I am the historian.
Very cool. Josephine, how about you?
Yeah, so I actually joined APO because of Maya. She was the pledge master at the time, and we were actually in a class together because we were going on a little month study abroad to Turkey. So I got a lot of time to hang out with her. I love her so much. But yeah, she introduced me to a lot of great people in APO. I really enjoyed the emphasis on service. I always loved to volunteer in high school. So I officially pledged my second semester freshman year. And then my first semester sophomore year, I was sunshine chair, which I really enjoyed as well. Just getting to know everyone in the chapter, being able to be on exec, even though it's kind of a smaller role, it was a really good stepping stone.
Okay, so let's dive in a little bit. Was there like a moment where you realized that the way you were trying to motivate people like just wasn't working?
A few times in a few of my positions. Well, because as pledge master, you have to really make sure people are getting their rush credits. And sometimes the motivation of like, hey guys, you're missing a lot doesn't really work. Basically like empty threats. Like you're not gonna meet them. This is a problem, like the deadline's coming soon. That just doesn't click for some people. And so it's definitely really hard to work around that. And then as a historian right now, I've been trying to I've been trying to get people to do day in the lives. And it's been really rough. I have been putting please, 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 please on my slide every chapter. It's not really working. But one thing I changed at the very beginning, I tried to motivate people by giving a credit for it.
Yeah, I mean, my only exact position so far has been Sunshine Chair. And although it is a small role, like I said before, it helped me really integrate into the chapter, get to know people, get to know kind of the vibe of how people operate, the social scene. And it really helped me understand what motivates these people. And there were a couple times, especially during busy parts of the semester. So Sunshine Chair, every Sunday, we send out these surveys that are like, "Hey brothers, what made you happy in the week?"
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you both like had great nuggets in there. So I want to pull on some of those threads. I think the first one that you touched on was about culture and kind of building a chapter where people can be themselves, but also figuring out what the culture is. So I'm curious, maybe Josephine, if you want to start, what did that journey look like for you when you were trying to figure out that the culture, like what people needed in that moment versus kind of just like what you wanted it to be?
Yeah. Well, one thing to know about me, before I joined APO, I was kind of nervous in social situations. I don't consider myself a big extrovert, so that position really allowed me to break out of my shell a little bit, get to know people, talk to people, be more confident in what I'm saying to them, and being able to listen to them. I think empathy is a really big part of it, just getting to know someone on a personal level, really understanding them, what they're going through. Um, I love examining people's personalities and just being an observer a lot of the time, but really being in those situations and talking to people really helped as well.
Were you able to then take those kind of personal individual conversations and then use that still as your opportunity to share with the chapter things that were happening for people that week, or what was kind of bringing them sunshine?
Yeah, and during the time I present my slide, I also liked to work with our chapter a little bit, work with the crowd, try to get people to stand up and tell the chapter what they did instead of just me reading it off of the board. And I think that really helped with the energy in the room.
Yeah. Oh, I think that totally makes a difference, right? When it's somebody telling their story versus just kind of the shout out from the front of the room sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
When I was Sunshine Chair, that was my first official position. And I think during that, I had the opportunity to get to know everybody. And I think that was like a big motivating factor for me, where like instead of kind of looking at the chapter as a whole, we're a pretty small chapter. At most, we have around like 40 to 50 people. And so rather than looking at it as a whole, I kind of just got to know everyone like individually, one by one. At that time, I feel like by my pledge master semester, I think I knew literally everybody and at least
That's
one
awesome.
thing about every single person. So for me, the culture is kind of more of like getting to know an individual, and when they need something, I can go up to them specifically and adhere to what I know that they need instead of
Yeah.
everyone as a one unit, because we're not all the same. It's just true, especially in APO. It's such a diverse group. Like one thing that is going to motivate one member is not going to motivate the same other person.
Ah, that's so good. Everybody's got different motivations. You can't like manufacture that for people. You just have to kind of create the conditions for it, which maybe that's a good segue to the sunshine chair position. So like tell people what is this crazy cool sunshine chair thing that you all have?
Basically, the point of Sunshine Chair is kind of just to like bring positivity to the chapter. when like things are feeling low or when some bad things have happened. The Sunshine Chair is more to like lift spirits generally. And in regards to like actual assignments of the Sunshine Chair, they do Brother of the Week each week, which just highlights someone who's done a lot of work. I won last week. I wasn't there, which is really unfortunate, but I was pretty happy. I had like a bunch of people texting me photos. I was like, darn it. But it was pretty cool. And like for me, it was just because I had been like posting a lot, just like people who have been really active. And I was at a service event off campus, and I think some people pointed me out because I drove. I don't know. It's people who have excelled that week and highlighting a brother, basically kind of motivating people to be a really good brother, because then maybe you'll get Bro of the Week. And then another thing the Sunshine Chair does is
The
paper plates.
yeah.
Yeah, paper plates at the end. It's just like
Nice.
at banquet at the end of the semester, everyone gets like a little award that's specific to them. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I think that's it. And to talk more about Bro of the Week, it's a lot of motivation for bros to like be the best they can, serve, lead, be fellowly. But also, it's really helpful for bros that might not know a lot of people in chapter to just see people, see what they've done, see a little bit about them, kind of in a way meet them.
I think we've
Yeah.
also been really trying to get Bro of the Week to be less of like people on exec, like more people who aren't super like well known in the chapter, because maybe that gives them like a highlight and motivation to like put themselves out there, maybe join exec the next semester. So like that's also something that Sunshine Chair tries to do, is like basically introduce members, give them a highlight.
I love that. And what I really like about it is that it helps highlight and create motivation without like just telling people we need to do it or you should sort of stuff. You're telling someone's story or somebody's telling their story that creates that kind of inspiration, which I think is really cool. So if you had to describe what motivation actually looks like in a healthy chapter, not the ideal, but the real, like what would it look like?
I think it's just a lot of community building. It's a lot of friendship. It's a lot of getting comfortable with your fellow bros, really understanding them, what motivates them, how they're different from you, and just caring about everyone equally and wanting everyone to succeed.
Yeah.
That's good.
Getting to
That's
know
good.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I like about that too is that it's like that's truly authentic. It isn't, you aren't manufacturing something there. You're getting to know what people's interests are, what's going to get them excited about engaging, and whether it's a service project or a fellowship event, it's the authentic way to do it. Okay, this is I want to dig in. Let's get practical, because I know that's what people are here for, and talk about some shifts, some leadership shifts that aren't theory. They're things that I've seen work in chapters across the country. And they're things that Angelina and Antonio in the last episode talked about, and that both of you have started to talk about, maybe without naming them this way. But I want to go over these 3 leadership shifts and then get your reactions to these. Shift number 1 is to give ownership, not just tasks. Because I think there's a difference between asking someone to help and asking someone to lead. Can someone help with the blood drive? Gets you a volunteer. Who wants to run the blood drive and make it their own? Gets you a champion. Shift number 2, make the why visible every time. Don't just assume members understand why something matters. Say it out loud every time. So this project matters because, or here's who this actually impacts, or this connects to why we started APO in the first place. This is our mission and vision of creating inclusive communities. Shift number 3 is to build belonging before you build expectation. And I think this is the one that gets skipped the most. We set expectations in APO really well: membership standards, minimum service hours, chapter requirements. But do people actually feel like they belong before we start asking them for those commitments? And actually, Antonio said it straight up in the last episode. If you win, I win. If you take a loss, I take a loss. We're in this together. And that's not just a nice sentiment. That's the environment that can make everything else work. So curious, now that I've gone through those 3, do any of those resonate with either of you?
I think we definitely resonate with the third one based on what we've said the past few minutes, but also the first one with the ownership. We actually do give members. So when it comes to an actual event, like a fellowship event, the VPF is usually the one who leads it, but we do also like to give members opportunities to lead the event themselves. So, like, say the VPF isn't going to be able to make it to their own event, they'll, like, at chapter be like, does anyone want to lead this? And that gives a lot of members an opportunity to, like, learn what it's like to lead something. And I think that also builds a sense of belonging because it gives them an opportunity to, like, hold authority in APO.
Yeah.
Like, and it also motivates them. Like, a lot of times that might inspire someone to want to be on exec the next semester. Like, it's a good way to build community, especially because they're like, they get to know each individual member who goes to that event too, because now they're in
Yep.
charge of the event and they have to make sure
Yep.
everything runs smoothly. So that definitely, it gives ownership and it also builds belonging.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. I remember when I rushed my first semester, I loved leading events. I thought I wouldn't because I was just very nervous too. I didn't know if I'd do things right, but I really liked stepping into that leadership role, and I really learned a lot about myself. And another thing that I like about APO is with specific exec positions, obviously there are guidelines on what exactly they are and what you should do. But whoever is in that role, they can make it their own. They can add their own flair, their own personality. Like for Sunshine Chair, each chair decides what the little Bro of the Week prize goodie bag is going to be. And I feel like everyone had their own little signature to that.
Okay. Thank you both so much for doing this. This was
Yes,
super
thank
fun for
you.
sharing your wisdom and your thoughts and insights. Really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having us. This is such a fun opportunity. I'm so glad you reached out. This is great.
Yes, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
It was such a great conversation. And here's why I think it kind of ties together and is especially relevant here in Alpha Phi Omega. What we have is purpose. And that's really genuinely powerful if we use it right. And actually, I think National President Disraeli Smith talked about this in our very first episode. He talked about how APO gave him a place to experiment and to try, to get things wrong and to figure out his style. And that's not an accident of APO. That's what the design is. APO is supposed to be a learning ground, which means it's okay when the service project only has 5 people if that's all you needed. Or it's okay when the meeting doesn't go perfectly, especially if then you say, oh, well, that last one didn't go so hot. And it's okay when motivation is hard. But what's not okay is letting that be the whole story. If leadership feels heavy right now, I want you to hear this. It's not a failure. It's a signal. It's a signal to shift from managing people to inviting them into purpose. And that shift, it's something that you can start today with one conversation, with one member, with one question asked differently. And I've got some practical tips that we're going to go over. But before we do that, let's do our APO Soundbite segment. And it's from Region K. Here's what some of the brothers said when we asked them, what's one thing a leader in your chapter did that made you actually want to show up?
I'm Francisco Farinas. My chapter is Alpha Delta Nu. The reason I came here was actually to still be in chapter is my big. That actually inspired me to be membership and help other brothers.
I'm Luna. I'm a member of Tau chapter here at the University of Florida. One thing a leader did for me that made me want to actually show up in Alpha Phi Omega was actually my president, Elisa. She just spoke to me. The first fellowship I ever went to, we were painting pots, and she made sure to have an engaging conversation with me the entire time. And I knew that this chapter would be a good thing for me because she wasn't afraid to talk to me, even though she was a junior and I was a freshman.
Hello, my name is Brittany, and I'm from the Alpha Theta Omicron chapter from FSW. And one thing that keeps me coming back is the inclusivity of the people in the chapter at FSW. My name is Berdeja. My chapter is Phi Theta Omicron. The reason I joined and stayed in APO was because of our advisor, Gabby. I went into her office for a different club and she started talking to me about APO. She invited me to a meeting into some events that they had coming up.
Hi, I'm Amanda Bent. I am part of Alpha Theta Omicron FSW College. What brings me back to Alpha Phi Omega and has me returning repeatedly is our president, Mel, continuously includes me. And I find being a non-traditional student, I can find myself feeling like an outlier, and she actively brings me in and includes me.
Oh, I love those, because not one of those answers was they sent me a reminder. So as we start to close here, I want to leave you with a question this week. If motivation disappeared from your chapter tomorrow, what would still bring people together? And if you have an answer, that's your starting point. That's what you build from. If you don't have an answer, that's okay too. That's the most honest place to start. So here's 3 things to try this week. Number 1, give one person real ownership of something, not a task, a role. Let them shape it. It's as Maya said, do you want to lead this versus do you want to do this? Number 2, before your next service project, take 2 minutes to say out loud why it matters. Not the mission statement, the actual story. And number 3, check in with one member this week, not to remind them of anything, just to ask how they're doing and what's been meaningful for them lately. It's exactly as what Josephine just described in the Bro of the Week. That's the way to do it. So as we wrap up here, next episode, we're shifting into chapter operations, and we're going to talk about something almost every chapter officer or member has dreaded at some point, the meeting that goes nowhere. So how do you run a meeting that people actually want to be at? We're going to dive into it. And if this episode resonated with you, send it to a fellow officer or member, or bring it to exec board and let it start a conversation. And I've got a special shout out to the Alpha Theta Omicron chapter. I learned they have a book club in their chapter for leadership points. They listen to the podcast, and it's a great idea, friends. So actually inspired by them, you can find a discussion guide for this episode in the show notes. Take a look at it. And if you have thoughts or an idea for the podcast, let me know. Email me at podcast@apo.org. Thanks for listening. And as always, when we lead for good, we change more than our chapters, we change ourselves.